Welcome to the Artist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Earhart, and I am so excited that you're here to catch the weekly replay of my laid-back yet very inspiring conversations with other full-time professional artists. The purpose of this series is to show aspiring artists that it is completely possible to have a great career in the arts. And if you ever want to tune in and have your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just check out the schedule over at facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy every Tuesday to catch us on live. I'll see you there. This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time six-figure art business. With weekly trainings that include step-by-step proven art business techniques, plus painting tutorials from yours truly and other guest artists who are masters in their field, you will be well equipped to learn and grow into the highly skilled and highly profitable artist you know you're meant to be. I've figured out what it takes to build my own six-figure art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. It's not hard, but it does require your time and dedication. So if you're up for the challenge, go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. This week's episode features Baltimore-based fantasy artist and educator Saz Ross. Saz has such an interesting backstory as to why she creates the art she does, and I think all of us could learn a thing or two from her on the topic of inspiration. I think we forget that the things we were interested in as a kid are often the things that can give us the best fuels for ideas as adults. Saz is a public speaker and seasoned art educator, and I could definitely tell by the way she presented herself and told her story with such confidence, yet such ease. It's really nice to see an artist who is comfortable in front of an audience, since most of us, including myself, are very introverted and quiet, but I think Saz is a great example of what's possible if you work for it. I think you're really going to enjoy this week's episode with Saz Ross. Can you please just kind of give us a little bit of a background about how you got into the arts and all the things?
Oh, well, of course. My name is Saz Ross. I'm initially from Queens, New York, and I grew up on Long Island. I moved to Baltimore to go to Towson University, and I was an art education major. I loved it so much that I decided to stay in Baltimore. My family, my tight-knit Puerto Rican family, was very angry that I didn't go back to New York. So unfortunately, they didn't get me back, but I was staying in Baltimore and loving teaching, and I got a job teaching in the Howard County Public School System, which is right outside Baltimore City. I taught for several years and put art on the back burner until my mom was diagnosed with blood cancer, actually, and I started doing it as a way to heal. You know, that was sort of like my therapy. Oh. And aside from that, I started creating all of these surreal creatures just to form some kind of escape into a world. My grandfather was friends with Salvador Dali. Most of my family is from Spain, so that was sort of like my source of inspiration for surrealism. And I would love hearing all his stories with, you know, my grandmother, and he was one of the captains aboard a ship that would go to Spain and all over the world, and Salvador Dali would frequent his ship and would always request my grandfather to help him with his luggage. And I just was so captured by these stories when I was younger, and, you know, even in my adulthood, as I was teaching, I would always use him as an artist exemplar. And you know, the art became more and more intense and more surreal as my mom went through chemo and therapy. And it's been a crazy ride since. And I actually left my very secure job because I had this almost like this epiphany awakening. And, you know, I was sort of in this rut of depression for a while, and seeing my mom pass away definitely sort of like reset my mind and got me into a place where I looked at life like it was so precious. And that's how I started making full time and taking a new path.
Wow, that is a story. That is
Yeah.
an intro. Wow,
Yeah.
that's passionate and powerful and meaningful. And you make me want to go out and write a children's book
Oh,
about.
well,
I'm
you
like,
can.
yeah, I'm over here like, oh, that's such a good idea. Like a surrealist, an illustrator, like, oh, all the things. Okay, awesome. Okay, so what made you take the leap into full-time artist? When did that happen?
So, things were sweet working in the Howard County public school system. It was a wealthy county, so we got all these artists in residence. The kids got to play with glass and weave and all these amazing things. And I enjoyed my time there. I won a really cool award for like Art Teacher of the Year in Maryland for the Maryland Art Education Association for elementary in Howard. I was on a cloud nine. And then what ended up happening was when my mom got really sick, I felt like I was in this helpless mode and I couldn't go to New York as much as I wanted. And I had to eventually move there to take care of her. And by the time I did, she only had a week left. So in that moment, I, I almost felt like I could have been there earlier. I shoulda, coulda, woulda. I had this breakdown and I left my totally secure job in Howard to find something new. And I was lost, completely lost. And I actually have an artwork that has like this little girl with a lantern in the woods, and it definitely is me. And I drew it at that time because I didn't know what would happen. So I randomly put my resume online, and this art nonprofit organization, which I work for now, Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center, scooped me up. And I thought I would start this new journey with art, and there I was teaching in one of the poorest parts of Baltimore City with kids that never even held a paintbrush in their lives. And I was art teaching again, but under completely different circumstances, like water fountains where you couldn't even drink, broken glass, lots of like fighting. So I felt trapped again in that. But ultimately my contract with the school went under due to, certain weird things that happened. But if anything, I loved the organization so much, I didn't want that to be like my last, moment with them. So I knew they had a vacancy for a leadership position, and I found the courage to ask for an interview. And if I didn't reach out and ask, I wouldn't have gotten it. And now I'm one of the leaders of the organization, and I'm sort of like the educational director, liaison, and I find artists to help teach virtually now in all areas of art: visual, music, dance, theater, and I make my art with it. And I do art PD and webinars, creative webinars for school systems and all types of communities, ministries. And now I do it for, schools all over because of the virtual transition. So that's, sort of where I am right now.
Oh wow! So you transitioned. You were doing virtual before everything like this happened.
A little bit, but now it's all virtual, and I do art lessons once a week, and then I work for the organization with helping instructors and having them create engaging virtual content that's art related. And I write curriculum as well for a virtual learning platform for Leaders of Tomorrow Youth Center, along with using my own art as fuel and energy for the instructors and the creative professional development workshops and all that stuff.
Oh wow! So you just
Yeah.
dove into this. You're like, well, I have the tools for this. This is the perfect time.
I figured, why not? I mean, this is this is it. We gotta try everything. We gotta throw the darts.
Yeah, exactly.
See what sticks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just dive in head first.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So how many schools are you teaching for, and ministries, and like how do they get contact with you? Like how does that set up? And if
So
someone wanted to help you and give a class to you or something, how could they do that?
So basically what we do is we started with Baltimore City, and we had contracts with like over 80 organizations, and we had a really good footing in the community for about 15 years. So we had all that time to build networks at educational conferences and pitching at, different sorts of either education-based events or, women in business event, because we had a lot of female leaders going on there. And basically what ended up happening was we built this amazing network, and over time, schools not only saw that we had, obviously all these art services, but professional development. And then, certain businesses wanted to catch on to that. So a lot of it is word of mouth, and a lot of it is the time we've put in at conferences and just meeting people face to face and building relationships. And I like to be invested in, various parts of the community. I'm a Toastmasters member, so I have a lot of friends who are in ministries in Baltimore. So they, they want virtual gatherings and they want to make art. So here it is.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about Toastmasters really quick, because I joined and then everything happened, and so I haven't really been back. But I just joined, and I was so scared. I was like, I don't want to be better at public speaking. I don't know. So are you a public speaker?
Oh, yes. So a lot of this actually stems from education. Anyone in education, you have like that public speaking bug. Yeah. You have it too. I know you do. But if anything, it's something where you nurture it. When I was in high school for 4 years, I was on a traveling acting team, which is a speech and debate team called Forensics. So I traveled the country, and I was on, like all these weird student stages at like Harvard and Princeton and, all these, universities. And that really got me out of my shell. And then when I started teaching, it was like, okay, this is it. This is my stage. And when I stopped teaching, I was like, I need to build the stage again. I need to find a way to speak and do this. So I actually started getting into groups online for female speakers. I joined a really cool group with Jess Ekstrom called Mic Drop Workshop. And it was all these amazing female speakers. So since then, I've reached out to colleges and universities, and I've actually, before quarantine, was booking gigs at schools and doing art workshops, and now it's all transitioned to online. So now it's webinars, so art webinars. But you still use speaking. And my Toastmasters group, we meet online, so it's good. It's great.
You do right now?
Yeah, we do speeches online. It's the same thing. It's just virtual, and we have people now joining from all over the place. And my friend Brian Olds, he's like the CEO of Black Speakers Network, so he is really big into getting people to join, especially his group. So if anything, if you feel like you need a home virtually for Toastmasters, let me know.
Okay, I will definitely for sure. Yeah. I'm almost fluent in doing online presentations, but like when it comes to their actual people, I'm like, oh gosh, there's so many of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It could be intimidating, but then I think once you get past that point, it becomes thrilling. And
does it? Okay.
It does. It really does.
I just think if I can get past this, like that can help me in so many ways, just it can open up so many doors if I can just get over this, because it's so silly. It's so like in my head.
You know who a great role model is for this? If you love, art making and public speaking, that marriage, Phil Hansen.
Okay.
Gotta look into him, because what he does is he actually makes big artworks. He's a mixed media artist, and then he destroys it right after he makes it. And he creates these, it's called Fill in the Circle. That's his website. And he creates these beautiful, amazing artworks, and he does it with all types of organizations. And he belongs to like 1 million speakers bureaus, and they always book him for, engaging, artistic, and inspiring presentations. So as long as you have a good story and you know how to storytell, and, you can get up on a stage and share your art, you're gold.
I don't want to. That's the thing. I don't want to do that. But people, I get asked sometimes to like present in front of this little group or that little group, and every time I'm like, oh, I just need to like get over it. That way when people ask me, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, and I don't like sweat.
Right. Yeah, it takes time and practice, and you'll be able to do it. If if you really want it, you'll do it. And I think your art making is proof of that. So It's
Thanks.
awesome. Yeah.
Speaking of art making, what is your typical work day? Like, how many hours do you spend creating art, teaching, all the things?
So basically what I do is I try to, my week could be unpredictable. If like an instructor is having a problem signing into a class virtually, or if they need help, that's sort of where I'm on call at any point. So my art making can be interrupted at a moment's notice. I try to like not have that happen by, specific times for the week where I can create and not have anything scheduled. I just bought a house actually, so that's been a big time. Yeah, yeah. So that's been like a big art project in itself because it's a full renovation. So it's been challenging, but at the same time, I definitely have certain days where I know I'm sitting down, I'm getting all the art materials out, and I'm getting to work. So that's been helpful to be organized and making sure I stick and stay true to my schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So how many hours do you think you spend painting or drawing or painting like a week, do you think?
It definitely varies from week to week. I'm going to say confidently at least, I want to say like at least 15 hours,
Yep.
15, 20. Yeah. And it's one of those things where that fluctuates. It could be more or less depending on like commission or special project I'm working on, or if it's, I have more instructor needs during the week. And I actually started a new project where I am hosting a series of shows with different types of art makers. I have a friend who's a dancer, musician, a creative writer, and now we're sort of interviewing people from different sectors and coming together. So we just started a new project, and this has just been a time for me to explore and, work on my stuff, but also try things differently and take a different approach because of everything going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. So where do you get your inspiration? Because I'm over here, I want to do a cloud series, and I'm in the middle of it, and I'm like trying to get, I have some ideas, but I'm like, I don't know, and like, how do people get all these ideas?
So I think a lot of it, it stems from certain master artists that I've gained inspiration from. Like I mentioned before, Salvador Dali was a big one for me, but I also want it to be meaningful. So whenever I approach an artwork or I'm thinking about a surreal or unique idea, I always reflect back to what is true to me. And I know for you, I think I've seen a lot of butterflies. So if it's butterflies, for me, it's, tree houses. I grew up on a train track where my house shook. So I always had these like crazy dreams of my house just like slanting and doing, and my shelves would shake, things would fall. So I think in my own world, I felt like I lived in a surreal location right off a train track. And I always resort back to that and extend off of it like it's one continuous story. So if your clouds came to you and, you're really passionate about it, I would say draw on a subject that you are familiar with, that you connect with, that people know that's Andrea, and just keep building from it,
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Now I have an idea for the day. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Take it and run.
Awesome. So we've got the inspiration part down. Can you talk us through your creating process? Like, do you sketch it out first? What's the process?
So I think depending on the scale, if it's something tiny, I tend to be more experimental, and sometimes that little sketch becomes a final artwork. But if it's something bigger, like I usually, because I don't want to waste the paper, I do some planning beforehand. I have like a separate sketchbook. So I think it really depends on the scale of the work that I have. And I've wanted to get bigger. I just don't have the space. But if anything, I would love to hear how how you find buildings. So if anything, that's always been something I've been interested in. But yeah, if anything, my process, it involves a lot of mechanical pencils, and depending on the scale, it could be in a sketchbook or like direct right onto the paper.
Okay. Also, how do you find reference photos? Because that's another thing I'm running into. I'm like, I have all these ideas in my head, but I don't know that I have a reference photo for this.
Yeah, and that's something where, it becomes tricky because you can look at an image online, but then you think about copyright and you think about, that's someone's property. But if you do enough research and you look and you digest multiple things and kind of use all of those references to create your own thing, I think that becomes helpful, especially for somebody who's inside, can't go out. Where am I getting these photos? Not everyone has that luxury. So I found by doing research and looking at multiple things, you're not concentrating on one, you're not taking someone's property, but you're sort of like picking, like, just like, oh, this is what a zebra looks like. This is what a giraffe looks like.
How do you get reference photos for your houses then?
So for my houses, I actually started taking pictures of my own for that for a long time ago. Yeah. So ever since I was younger, I always had an attraction to triangular houses. And there is a town right by me in Baltimore, and I think it's called like Roland Park, and they have these very whimsical houses. So a lot of those houses are actually pieces of pictures I've put together, like some that I found on my honeymoon in Belize, like from all over the place. So what I'll do is I'll take those pictures and then distort them. Oh. So yes. So what I'll do is almost like my mind is putting it through like a taffy puller. I'll take the roof, I'll extend it up, I'll exaggerate the window, I'll have the branch sort of like coming out of the window. So that's sort of where my mind always goes with
you do
the
this
houses.
in your mind and not in Photoshop, right?
No, just here. But it's really experimental. It's so much trial and error. Yeah, like I can't even tell you how many scraps of paper I have with houses that I despise. I hate them. I don't like them. I shouldn't be ashamed of them because they get me to a good place eventually. So I embrace that and I love it. But I just have a pile of rejected houses that I'm never going to use, and it's just going to stay that way. But it's helping me because I sort of look at what I like and don't like, and I can choose, what distortions work and which ones don't work. But yeah, anything. That's where it goes.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank
you. Okay, so is there anything you don't like to paint without?
Oh, don't like to. Yeah, music. Music is it. I had a band for a while. It was like a cover of the 70s. I like oldies.
You have a band?
A lot. Yeah, it was called Platinum Circus. It was like covers of the 70s band.
That sounds so much fun, though.
I'll sing sometimes while I make the art. My husband doesn't like it. He doesn't like it at all. He loves me, but it's, I can get a little loud sometimes, maybe. And that could be distracting. But yeah, other than that, I think the music is something where if I'm in tune to it, I'm less inclined to look at my laptop, look at my phone, and just like zone in to the artwork. So I need the music.
I love it. Yeah, mine is podcasts. Someone has to talk to me. I don't like to talk, but someone likes to talk to me, just to get my mind thinking. And it's just
you've got to tell me some good ones because I'm having a time here.
For sure. Yeah, I have a whole list. I love my podcast. There's this one that I just got on for anybody listening to. It's called The Business of Hype. And so if you like business podcasts where people tell their story, there's some artists on there, creatives, fashion designers. It's very interesting. So The Business of Hype, and it's pretty cool.
Write them down.
Awesome. Are there any art lessons you've learned the hard way?
Absolutely. Oh boy. I mean, I feel like that's the nature of the beast of just like being an artist. Like you've got to learn. I've done experiments with materials where I dove right in with either paint or pen, and there's no forgiveness once you put it down. So if anything, I remember spending all this money on, this special kind of paper. And then when I got it, you couldn't see any of the detail of my pen because the paper was just so coarse. So yeah, you learn the hard way, and it really is a ton of trial and error, and just knowing that each error is a stepping stone to that final answer you've been looking for. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that you shared that story too, because it brings me back to in January, I was like, I'm going to try colored pencil and I'm going to do colored pencil butterflies. I'm just
Yes.
glowing. And and so I went and bought these, like the most expensive ones they had at Hobby Lobby. They were like these awesome, I don't want to even say the brand really, but like,
Right.
and I got them and I'm like, I hate them. Like, I hate them so much. I'm like, can I take them back? I don't know. And I ended up getting these like cheaper colored pencils that I
Yeah.
love. And I'm like, okay, so when people ask me for recommendations, I'm like, I don't know. Like, dude, this is what I like. You do what you like.
Everyone likes something different, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just the way it is, and it really depends on what you're comfortable with and what style you're trying to achieve. So I think there's like a lot of elements at play with that,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
almost like prefer the cheaper paints as well. Like because
Oh,
they have more water in them, and I use a lot of water when I paint. So I just kind of like it rather than the really heavy bodied stuff, And
yeah.
I'm like, but then I have to add a bunch of water to it. I don't know. So it's like whatever supplies you have are
Right.
fine,
And
basically.
there should be like no judgment, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want a rose art colored pencil, you buy the rose art colored pencil. Just just keep it to yourself if you don't want a lot of people. I'm kidding. But yeah, take pride in your materials and how you use them, because that's how you're achieving that specific style and look and aesthetic, and it works. So just keep moving with it.
Yeah, for sure. I have one painting over here that's actually pretty good, and I'm like, I did that with craft paint. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you can do anything with anything.
Lies. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite past project? Do you have a favorite painting?
So I have a favorite artwork. I didn't actually add. I did all of it in pen and ink. So I start everything with pen and ink, and then I'll add the paint and the watercolor after. But this one I left without color. And it was the piece that I mentioned earlier, Lost. It's the girl in the woods. And for some reason, I've gotten a lot of people like just asking me so many questions about it. And the fact that it makes people that curious is why I think I'm even more attracted to it, because at the time of making it, it was such a deep feeling for me with my mom and everything going on. And I think knowing when I look at that, I was going through that whole time, and that's what came out of it. And, through a horrible situation came out this beautiful, surreal picture. Yeah, by far it's like one of my most favorite things I've ever done. It's called Lost.
I love that, and I love that
Yeah.
it comes from like an emotional place too.
Oh yes,
That's
very emotional.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay, and so when so you mentioned you do pen and ink, and then you do watercolor on top
hmm
or acrylics, what did you say?
I do a
Watercolors?
watercolor on top.
Watercolor. And
Yeah,
so I have tried doing this before, but however, I mean, just like a long time ago and just for an experiment. However, I didn't
yeah,
use the high quality pens and inks, so they went everywhere. So is there like there's a certain kind of brand, right, that you have to, or certain kind of property in the ink that you have to have,
yeah.
right?
I think, and it's all about ratios for me,
Okay.
making sure that I have the right amount. I let the ink dry, and then I'm putting the right amount of water and the right amount of ink in certain areas. And sometimes when I skim over it with a watercolor, it makes the pen detail a little more dull. So I'm always waiting for things to dry so I can like add another part to it. So it's almost like these pieces work in stages, where you have the pen, you let it sit, and then you put the watercolor on top of it, you let it sit, and then you kind of go back on top, cherry on the sundae, put all the embellishments that kind of got a little washed away from the watercolor. And there you go.
Oh, your patience is a virtue. I would hate that, but
Yeah, there's
that's
a lot of
amazing.
unfinished stuff here. I mean, yeah, if anything, it's good for me because I get bored easily.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm working on this, good. Put that away. I'll see you later, and I'll come back to it at another point.
Yeah, get something new and exciting out, and then once you get done with that,
Yes.
go to something else.
Right. Yes.
Awesome. So, how do you get most of your clients? How do you sell your work? I think that's like the top question that everybody wants to know. How do I sell my work? How do you sell your work?
Oh yeah, it really is different for everybody, and I think for me in particular, because it's easy to see a lot of people on social media with like, people to get caught up in, followings and like all this other stuff. But really the thing that's worth the most is building loyal, smaller communities, like people that are coming back, people that you're consistently engaging with. So really what ended up happening was I started going to these markets, and I consistently went to these art markets in Baltimore. And like the same people would be coming back, and it was like became word of mouth. And then this friend told this friend, and I did use social media and I did make a website, but I don't think I put as much energy into it. But I found that by not, by balancing it, making sure, like I post every so often, but then also interacting with the people and building a small community. I had like a little, like Facebook group or whatever I had going on. That's where the loyalty came in, and loyalty is more valuable than hundreds of thousands of followers. So if anything, like the people that are going to come back to you are the ones you're going to interact with, point blank, for me at least. That's what it is. And those small groups that you build online like are so valuable because it's personal. And you're not just another number, another face, another picture on social media. You're someone that someone can identify with. Someone has a memory with you,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think with like today's online virtual world, so much people are kind of forget about that. So I love that you said that.
Yes. And people might be like, well, what am I going to do? There's no markets right now. How am I going to interact with people? Well, you can make small groups online. You can make it exclusive. You can make a private group just to see, like trial and error, what bites, like what are groups that people are attracted to? What's content that people want to see? And you kind of just experiment and you tailor the group to your aesthetic, whatever, it's colored pencil girls or, paint with, funny hats, whatever it is, whatever people think is attractive. And then that builds over time, and you have to make sure that you stay consistent with it. Like, you made that group, don't abandon it, like don't leave it out in the middle of the ocean without a life raft. Make sure that you're paying attention to it and you nurture it like a little plant, right? Like you feed it water, sprinkle in, new artwork or new idea, ask other people how they're doing and what they're doing, and take an active interest in that group you're creating, because that's what's going to, foster this loyal community that you're looking for,
Yeah, I feel like you're giving me direct advice because I have two groups on Facebook. One is called the Artist Academy, and one's the Artist Academy Advanced, where my students are in, and I'm always in the advanced group, like commenting, like wow, like we're doing this and teaching them. But at the original Artist Academy, I sometimes just forget about, and so I'm like, my husband too is like, hey, you haven't posted anything in there a while. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I just forget. I'm like so into my students all the time in that group. And I forget about the free group with 1,000 members in it already, and I'm like,
teaching is addicting.
Yeah.
No, it is. Like if I had a perfect world, I would find a way to merge it all together. But I think right now, because I'm sort of doing some trial and error and seeing, like I'm doing this new group called Lost in Creation, and
Ooh, tell us about it.
Interviewing different artists.
That.
Yes. And I have a few friends of mine that are involved in this. I have a friend who's a dancer in LA. She's a choreographer. And then I have a friend who's a musician in DC. So I have all these different artists, and now we're getting into organizing the group and making certain days of the week, like, Thursday theater or, things like that. So it's like you create this consistency with it, and just to see where it goes. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. We interview artists. I have a form that's like right on the page. People can fill it out, and if they feel like, hey, I have a voice and I want to be heard, and I don't have like 1 billion followers. I want to just find a community that fits with me. This is perfect for you. I mean, if anything, it's like just storytelling. It's good storytelling, and it always comes back to how are you serving the community, because a lot of people in this group come from education backgrounds or have helped the community in some way, and they've taught, or done some sort of interactive activity that has engaged other people and has made them learn the art of dance or the art of music and painting and all that other great stuff.
Yeah, all all that amazing stuff with
all
the
that
arts.
great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have me inspired to maybe interview a dancer now. Like, what if I got that perspective on the artist?
Go for it. I made a huge artwork on a sheet. I use it at every market. And my friend who's a ballerina, she dipped her feet in ink and she danced on this cloth. I use it at every market. Yes. So
there we go.
Good collabs on the horizon.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. I'll have to maybe get her info from you.
Oh yeah, for real.
Check her out online. Okay, awesome. So, what are your future art plans and goals? What's going on right now? What's besides your group? What's in the works?
So, I think right now what I'm trying to do is as far as me being an artist, I'm trying to explore some of the things that got me interested in art in the first place. Surrealism, fantasy, creating these worlds where you can escape. So I'm creating this door series where there's different portals and it's taking you to, either a story from your childhood. I did one with 3 blind mice. I might do a version of Jack and the Beanstalk where it's Jackie and the Beanstalk, where it's more female centered. But I want to do that, and at the same time, I also want to inspire other art educators to keep doing what they're doing, because I think a lot of people right now, especially in the art world, art education world, are feeling tapped out a little bit, and are so focused with the transition of our world right now. They don't spend enough time for themselves. So I think I want to try to communicate through my groups and my business and the art organization I work for that carving out that time is valuable. And you need to make time for it. Otherwise, your cup isn't going to be filled. You're going to be dry. You're going to be running on empty. And you're not going to be able to give your full self to whatever, you're doing to make money, or whatever your career is. You got to carve out the time for the creative outlet,
Yeah, I love all of that. That's so awesome. Okay. So last question, and then I will let you go on here. Is there any advice that you give to artists who want to make art their full-time career but don't even know where to start?
I'm going to I think, resort back to something I said earlier about the small community.
Okay.
So if you're I want to dip my toe in the water, I don't want to jump in, I'm not going to do a cannonball into this art career. I want to see what works and, do some trial and error. Create that group. Create an online group and see, that's throwing a dart at the board, seeing if anyone's interested, and making it specific and consistent. And if you see that there's an attraction to it, you can build on that, and you can be inspired by that, and then you have a system of support. And then once you gain enough support, you'll be confident enough to take creative risks. So I always look at creativity like a ladder, and at the bottom of the ladder, you have your support system, your rock. It could be your community, your significant other, friends, family, whatever that is. You need the support. And then after the support, you become a little bit more confident in yourself, and you have these people that believe in you. And then after you build that confidence, this is where we get to the top of the ladder, and you become, more willing to take creative risks because you're confident enough. And then once you get to this creative risk place, that's the hot zone for making art. So I always think about the ladder system in my mind, and I think about, if I'm not feeding my relationship with my husband, or I'm not, spending energy into that, I'm losing my support system, and that's the bottom of the ladder, and that's where everything falls. So I'm just making sure that I, create enough energy and space for that part of my life so that the confidence is there, and then I'm finally able to create. So that's my mental system.
I love that. Now that's in my brain, it's never leaving.
Oh, well,
that's such
I'm
a
happy.
good, it's such a good visual too. It's kind of like the food pyramid in a way, but different and creative.
Food pyramid, my favorite thing. I'm not even kidding. I love anything food related. Or you could say it's maybe a sandwich or a sundae, right?
Sundae, you gotta have the ice cream.
Ice cream. No, it needs a vessel, right? The sundae needs a vessel. The bowl.
Yeah.
The bowl is your support. the ice cream is like, now I'm confident that this can be filled with something. And then the embellishment is the like the cherries and the chocolate sauce and the creativity, right? So that's it right there. It's the sundae.
I love that. And I feel like just kind of recently too with my like cloud series and stuff, I'm just getting to the point where I'm like really confident to put what I really want out there. And I'm just now getting there,
Yes.
And it was the first couple years of my art career, it was building the confidence to be able to do it, and now I have a support system and like all the things, and I'm like, that still makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely, I think it works for a lot of people. So that's why I put it on the plate. I offer it on my buffet of advice. It's on the menu. I'm an addict for puns. So
you're a poet.
I try. If it involves food or bears, I try.
I love it. Well, it's been so nice getting to know you. You're definitely a public speaker, and you've done amazing on this. I loved every part of it.
Well, thank you for having me on here, and thank you for doing what you do, creating a voice and a platform for other people and other artists. So it's beautiful. So keep doing it.
I know. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's a great way to start a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we will be in contact about everything else, and I will keep following you on Instagram and keeping up with all of your awesome art. And
same to you. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I will talk to you later.
All right. Have a great day.
See ya.
Bye.
This episode is sponsored by the Artist Academy Advanced Membership, a program for artists who want to up-level their art game by taking it from a hobby or a side hustle to a full-time six-figure art business. With weekly trainings that include step-by-step proven art business techniques, plus painting tutorials from yours truly and other guest artists who are masters in their field, you will be well equipped to learn and grow into the highly skilled and highly profitable artist you're meant to be. I've figured out what it takes to build my own six-figure art business, and now my heart is set on teaching aspiring artists like you to do the same. It's not hard, but it does require your time and dedication. So, if you're up for the challenge, go to advancedmember.com. That's advancedmember.com to learn more. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. If you review our podcast and send a screenshot of that review to me on Instagram, I am at @ArtByAndreaEarhart. I will then promote your art on my story and tag you as a little thank you for helping me grow this podcast and our Artist Academy community. I have a reach of over 50,000 on Instagram, so this is a little help me to help you incentive. Also, if you ever want your questions answered in real time by myself or featured guests, then just hop on over to facebook.com/groups/Artist Academy to check out the schedule every Tuesday to catch us on live. I'll see you next week.